few days ago, I received a comment asking how we received our celiac diagnosis for my kids. And so I figured I would make a video telling our story to see if it might help someone else. First, a little background. I have a younger sister who has had a lot of chronic health problems. And over the course of her many workups for many different things, they discovered that she had the markers for celiac disease, biopsied to confirm, and diagnosed her. She was already in her 20s. Side note, I'm convinced that a lot of her health problems stem from the fact that her gut had been so raw for so long before she was diagnosed. But that is a discussion for another day. So she lives with my parents, and I learned a lot of what a gluten-free life entails while watching them learn how to navigate it. Fast forward a ways, and my daughter, who was 2 at the time, starts complaining about stomach aches. Not occasionally, very frequently. Our pediatrician at the time thought that it may be constipation, and so he put her on Miralax, and we did that for a while. We tried prunes and prune juice, feeding her those on a regular basis, and didn't seem to fix the problem. She still had a lot of stomach aches. I even had to go dairy-free at one point when I was nursing one of her siblings, so we tried her dairy-free for a while, and that didn't seem to work. And then I even thought about gluten-free. I thought about celiac disease and maybe gluten intolerance. And so we went gluten-free for a while. We just kept having dairy in the mix at that point, and that still didn't fix it. We finally ended up moving, still not knowing why she was having stomach aches. And my daughter, it'd been a couple of years, she had just learned how to function with them. So after we moved and we found a new pediatrician, our first visit, we talked about the stomach aches, and I mentioned my sister has celiac disease. But he said that we had a lot of ground to cover first before we went that route, especially given her age. First thing he had us doing was journaling. We were to write down everything she ate, everything she snacked on, at what times, when she started having stomach aches, how long they lasted, how long in between the stomach aches, all of that, to see if there was any pattern to them. There wasn't. Next, we worked off the idea that maybe it was caused by anxiety, because apparently, especially with children, anxiety can sometimes produce increased stomach acid. And so he had us give her a Tums whenever she was having a stomach ache to see if that would help as kind of a diagnostic treatment. And initially, my daughter thought they were helping, but then we figured out her stomach aches were coming back after like 15 minutes. It was more placebo effect. Now, all the while, my mom is seeing a lot of similarities between my daughter and how my sister was when she was younger. My sister had a lot of stomach aches growing up. So all the while, my mom is like whispering in my ear, "Hey, what about celiac disease? She really looks like your sister." So I ended up bringing it back up to the doctor when everything else was not working. And he said, yes, this next step is to run a blood panel for all the common food allergies. And while we're doing that, we'll go ahead and run a celiac panel since it runs in your family. And I remember getting the phone call when he said, so she has some very strong markers for celiac disease and a mild milk allergy. And I remember thinking back to going dairy-free and going gluten-free and beating my head at the thought of why didn't I try both at the same time? So we got a referral to a pediatric GI specialist. There we find out that my daughter's celiac markers are completely off the chart, like more than the maximum level that they test for. And that normally, if your levels are in a gray area where you could have it, you might have it, you might not have it, that they recommend doing a biopsy, especially because a lot of people want proof before they dive into going gluten-free for the rest of their life. But with my daughter, he said she 100% has celiac disease. Any biopsy we do would just be confirming what we already know to be true. So we chose not to put her through that. He also told us, while we were already going off the gluten, to go ahead and go off of all the dairy as well. That with celiac disease, a lot of times you'll also see lactose intolerant when the gut is raw. And that the allergy panel has a hard time distinguishing between the allergy to the milk protein and lactose intolerance. And so if you do goat's milk or goat cheese, stuff like that, that's really helpful if you're allergic to the milk protein that you find from cow's milk. But that's not going to help you if your issue is lactose. And lactose is a really common issue for people with celiac disease. And so to start with going off all dairy, and then slowly add in maybe some mozzarella, some other cheeses that are really low in lactose, and see how she handles that. Because if it's the milk protein, that's going to be the worst day of the week. And if it's not the milk protein, then she'll handle that fine. And then we know kind of we can progress and add on as her gut heals. Turns out she had lactose issues. And so that was why she was having stomach aches when she had dairy. And now that her gut is better, she can have yogurt, she can have cheese, she can even have ice cream. She can't yet drink a full glass of milk though. We're working on it. But anyways, back to topic. The GI doctor also pointed out that because there's such a strong genetic component to celiac disease, that he recommended to go get everybody in the family tested, get a blood panel on everyone in the family. And everyone came back negative except for my son. So one brother showed up positive. And I, for one, had been surprised because he never had stomach aches. He was fine. So took him to the GI specialist and came to find out that his biggest symptom of celiac disease was the fact that he was a little bit underweight. His height was very disproportionate to his weight. And he wasn't malnourished, but the kid ate more than me and hadn't gained a pound in over a year. And we come to find out it's because his gut is so raw that he wasn't absorbing the nutrients that he needed. He's been on a gluten-free diet for over a year now, and he gained 4 pounds in the last year. And his appetite has slowed down into a more normal level. And so I reason that whatever gene passes this on in families, because my sister has it, my kids have it, I'm likely a carrier, even though I don't have it myself. But that is an interesting thing that doesn't quite make sense to me, like how it jumps in. Still researching, figuring that out. So yeah, that is how my 2 oldest children were diagnosed with celiac disease. She was 9, her brother was 7. So when it was all said and done, it took about 7 years to get the diagnosis, a little over 7 years. I plan on doing another video on how life changed after the diagnosis, but I'm gonna stop here for now. Drop a comment with any questions that you may have. It's estimated that every 1 in 100 people have celiac disease, and it is significantly underdiagnosed. And as I'm finding with the celiac community on Instagram, it is all over the world. So there is a decent chance that you will find someone at some point in your life who has celiac disease, if that person isn't you. But anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.